In this video, we're going to go over some matrix basics. Now, let's recall that a matrix is just a rectangular array of numbers. And a matrix with m rows, so rows are horizontal, and n columns, which are vertical, is said to have dimension or size m by n. Okay, you always do the rows first, then the columns. Okay, let's look at our first example. This matrix in part A is a 3 by 2 matrix. Notice it has 3 of these horizontal rows and then 2 columns. Okay, I think of columns as being vertical, kind of like the columns on a building are vertical. So it's 3 rows and 2 columns. Now in part B we have 3 rows and 3 columns, so it's a 3 by 3 matrix. In part C we just have 1 row, but we have 5 columns, so this is a 1 by 5 matrix. Okay, now that's not the same thing as a 5 by 1 matrix. In fact, I've drawn a 4 by 1 matrix here. This has 4 rows, but only 1 column. So it's 4 by 1 matrix. Now, a matrix with only 1 row is a row matrix or a row vector. So like in part C here, this is a row matrix. Okay, and a column matrix, or a column vector, it's sometimes called, is a matrix with only 1 column. So part D, this is an example of a column matrix. Okay, and a matrix with the same number of rows as columns is called a square matrix. So like in part B, this is 3 by 3. It has the same number of rows as columns, so it's a square matrix, and you can see it looks just like a square. Okay, now let's go over a couple things with notation here real quickly. Now let's consider two matrices. Now I've named this first matrix A, capital A. Usually we use capital letters to denote a whole matrix. And B is this 4 by 4 matrix over here. Okay, and for the matrix A, we denote the element in the ith row and the jth column by A sub ij. Okay, so for example, what is A sub 2, 3? Well, we'll go to the second row, right? Here's the first row, here's the second row, and the third column, we end up with this element right here. So A sub 2, 3 would be 9. Now, by the way, A sub 3, 2, here we go to the third row and the second column, that would be 5. Okay, or you could look at what's A sub 1, 3. Okay, well, you go to the first row and the third column, that would be negative 2. Okay, so each of these, this would be A11, this would be A12, A13. This would be A21, A22, A23, then A31, A32, A33. Okay, the same thing with this matrix B, only we call them B sub 41. B sub 41 would be in the fourth row, and so that we go down to row 4, and we'd be in the first column. Okay, so here's the first row, second row, third row, fourth row, first column. Okay, so that would be 2. B sub 41 would be 2.